Listen, Steven, I'm deciding whether or not to put you in timeout right now, okay? I've had a hard enough weekend, and then you're giving me a hard time. I don't need this right now, man. Let me mourn in peace. I've never had a sense of time. Vandy didn't do that. I did that. The good Lord above did that. That's not on Vandy. Don't give me that go Commodores in here. Although, great win for Vandy. Won't shy away from that. Gentlemen, we have got a great stream. Thank you, everybody, for being in here, even though, Steven, I'm still debating that timeout. You said you were studying for your midterms. I might send you back to the books for a little bit. You know I love you. Tough as Nails in here. Thank you for being in here. A. Watt in here. Truth in here. We got a lot to talk about. As always, we go around the table. There's the familiar face and Coach Sean. Coach, how you doing?
Doing good, man. About as good as expected. A lot of truth in the details going around. Uh, for some people, some still not facing the truth. But hey, it is what it is, and unexpected losses kind of do that to you.
They hurt. They
Yeah.
hurt real bad. Megan, happy you're in here. Trojan Fight, my man, happy you're in here as well. Stephen Hicks, how are you? And we have a new face, but one that you all will be acclimated to, one that is going to be bringing something in the very near future very cool to the college football realm, something that is needed, in my opinion, and that's Connor. Connor, how are you today?
I'm doing great. I'm a Boise State fan, so it was a great weekend for me. Not really sure what all the sad vibes are around here, but I'm doing great. I'm doing great.
Love to hear it. Love to hear it. And Connor, before we kick off, I want you to kind of tell people what your vision is, why I think your project that you're working on is something that everybody needs to know about. And then we're going to jump into the weeds.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have always been a giant college football fan. I grew up here in Boise. My dad and I have had Boise State season tickets for the last 26 years. I was really indoctrinated into college football in the Kellen Moore era years when he was becoming the winningest college football quarterback of all time. So have always had a huge passion for football, for college sports. But have also always loved data analytics. I'm actually an accountant professionally, so I love college sports, but I love college sports in a very analytical and nerdy way. I'll admit I haven't always been the sharpest in terms of the X's and O's. I'm hoping to learn from people such as yourself and Coach Sean for that. Coach Jay, I see just joined, so I'm hoping that they can kind of be a mentor for me in those kind of areas. But where I am really strong is in the data and the data analysis. So I'm working on establishing a predictive explanatory model for college football that will essentially, give a prediction for who will win a given game and the margin of victory for the game. And so I'm hoping to be able to kind of build a model similar to what PFF or a lot of the industry leaders out there have in terms of data analytics. But then kind of go at it from a little more of a grassroots type of model and kind of take fans and people that love college football, just like myself, kind of under the hood to be able to see what goes into that data model, how the data model works, and just kind of maybe pull out interesting tidbits from the data that people might find interesting, highlight trends, stuff like that. So that's kind of what I'm hoping to do. As you mentioned, I'm still just working on this project. So you'll see I don't actually have a channel created yet, but that's well in the works. And in the meantime, I'm hoping to come on here, talk some ball with all of you guys. Really appreciate you having me and just kind of sharpen my skills there and hopefully add some interesting, some data context.
No, I love that. Anytime you can get actual analysis in terms of what the numbers are saying, I think that's a great way to marry some of the things we do, right? Which is just looking at the X's and O's and then have the data behind it to try and paint the complete picture. Vandy did not break us. They did not break us. We're still here. We're still here. Jance, how are you, my man?
Oh, it broke me, man.
Well, it broke him.
It broke me down, and so did the Bills game, man. I have no energy. So if y'all expect me to start yelling and screaming and doing these rants, I can't do it. I can't, because I watched I watched insanity, man. I watched first Kane Womack and now Joe Brady in terms of misusing personnel. Players don't want to play in structure. It was just the again play selection. I mean, it was just I can't do it, man. I can't. I couldn't even make my my I couldn't even do the fan reaction video. I couldn't even do it because of how terrible it actually was, man. But no, I mean that Vandy game did it for me, Ty. Like and it's not just the coaches, because I can't just blame it on the coach. That was one of the worst tackling Alabama games I've ever seen in my life. Like the tackling in that game, the players, and it's not even the fact that the technique of the tackling was terrible. These players refused to come up and tackle. I couldn't, but it's almost like they were afraid of these runners. I couldn't believe what I was actually seeing rewatching the game. I'm like, this is not just on a, like, I'm telling y'all, this is a cultural issue. This is not just a coaching and philosophy issue. This is a cultural issue that we're facing right now. And I don't, and again, you know, Georgia fans continue to say that, listen, we made that game our Super Bowl. I'm actually starting to believe that. Because in that first half, I saw players coming down. I saw the defensive line being a lot more aggressive. I saw the defense playing a lot in structure. And yes, you can disagree about the play selection in the second half. Yes, you can disagree about Kane Womack's concepts. But at the end of the day, these players, if they're in a position, you got to step up and make tackles. You have to be a lot more assertive. And in the second half against Georgia, and now in that entire Vanderbilt game, these players weren't even assertive. They didn't. I mean, Vanderbilt asserted their dominance. They were up in Bama's face, and these players they didn't want it anymore. Like I couldn't believe what I actually saw rewatching the game. Because again, Kane Womack. Do I like Kane Womack as a defensive coordinator? No, I don't like him as my defensive coordinator. I don't like this new iteration of this 4-2-5, 3-3-5 crap that we're seeing. But at the same time, though, I can't put it all on Kane Womack. These players, you gotta figure out a way how to play in structure, and that's something. And they just couldn't. They were in positions to make 2-3 yard tackles and ended up turning into 7-8 yard tackles. I can't blame that on Kane Womack. If you're right there, Kane Womack did his job. If he's putting you in a position to make 2-3 yard tackles, especially against this simplified modern option offense, how can I blame Kane Womack for that? That's on you. So I don't know, man. Like I saw it, you know, I don't know, man. Like, this is a cultural issue. I don't know if it's going to be fixed. I don't know. Like, it's a lot more shocking to me watching the game than compared to what we did this one on Coach Sean's platform.
Yeah, and the only thing I think, because I don't disagree in entirety, man, but where I do kind of disagree is that I don't know, like, culturally, right? Because the culture, I don't know how much of the issue that is in totality relative to, I put a lot more of this on Womack, because as Connor and I were talking about before we all got on here, whenever you have a situation where you know you're playing an option team and you know that they're going to present things to you, and you line up LT Overton, Jamarian Latham, and a defensive tackle with your wolf in between that bandit and defensive tackle, you're inviting them to get to the edge. Like, you are just basically telling them, please, Lord, go to the edge. And then whenever you have a linebacker or anything attack, they're doing so 4 yards downfield, right? So I think when we look at it, to me, I have a big issue with the scheme. I think that's where my biggest issue lies. Now, that's not to say I disagree. I think that the play has to be better from the players. And I'm not even saying it's a perfect culture, right? That's not my contention. But whenever I look at this, whenever I dive into the numbers, this was a game where Alabama missed 8 tackles. I don't think they prepared for an option team well. And Connor compiled some interesting data about option teams. And I think if you don't prepare for, hey, whenever the quarterback goes, you have to have someone take the quarterback, you have to have someone take the running back, and you have to have someone take the third option, it didn't look like Alabama's defense knew that was going to happen. And that's why we had these situations where the little option pass, the shovel pass, and they got a lot of yards off that. Hitting some of these comments, and then Connor, I want you to talk about that model. Saying DeBoer almost, yeah, Texas came back, but that was also an incredibly talented Texas team. And, you know, it is what it is. Stunt saying, weren't you guys the same ones? Yeah, I mean, listen, we liked the theory, but now we have seen it in action, right? That's why in the scientific method, you have a hypothesis. And then whenever you go to test it, you see the results and you see, is it actually going to work? We're past the hypothesis phase now, right? That's just kind of where we are. Connor, talk to us about the data you compiled, because I think to me, it really proves that Alabama did not prepare well for what Vandy wanted to do.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm actually really glad that you brought up the scientific process, because that was sort of how I took a look when I was kind of looking at this. So obviously, tuned into the Alabama Vanderbilt game just like the rest of you. And one of the things that I noticed that the analysts were talking about on the game was the use that Vanderbilt was employing of the option style attack. They ran option out of the pistol. They ran option out of the wishbone. They were very option heavy focused in their attack. And obviously, those of us that really love college football, watch college football, we know that a lot of schools that don't necessarily, that aren't able to recruit that top tier talent, they like to try and employ an option attack to try and upset those that might have, more talent. And so I wanted to kind of test that hypothesis and see, well, does that even work? Should teams like Georgia Tech of the past and the Armed Force Academies, should they really be employing this option attack? So I took a look at the Mountain West Conference, which has Air Force in the conference. And I took a look at over the last 10 seasons, so think since 2014, I looked at the 247 recruiting rankings for the Mountain West Conference. And then I compared those to win percentages within that conference. So if you take a look at the top recruiting classes over the last 10 years, on average, Boise State, number one recruiting class in the conference on average. Number one win percentage, Boise State. Number two recruiting class average in the conference, San Diego State. Number two winning percentage, San Diego State. Here's where it gets interesting. Third best winning percentage in the conference, Air Force Academy. Where does Air Force rank in terms of recruiting? Tied for last over the last 10 years. So if you look, we talk all the time about the blue chip ratio and stuff and about having the most talented teams. And that's clearly true. If you look, Air Force hasn't won a conference championship since 1999. So they're not this dominant conference team. They don't have the talent, which a lot of the service academies have, yet they're greatly overperforming their talent. They have on average, lowest amount of talent. They're performing at third best team in the conference. So I just thought that was very interesting. In speaking to the Alabama Vanderbilt game, Vanderbilt, obviously a lot less talented team than Alabama is. But I think their use of the option attack is something that, these teams, obviously there were some issues schematically with the way that Alabama was trying to attack the Vanderbilt offense. But I think there is something to be said for the fact that this is not the type of offense that that Alabama is defending week in and week out. And so just throwing that kind of odd wrinkle in there systematically, even if you don't necessarily have the same talent as a lot of these teams, it can really help close some of that gap. So I, found that scientific hypothesis to be, at least in terms of the Mountain West, accurate.
Yeah, and it's interesting, Coach Sean, as I pass it to you. No, in no way, shape, or form, if you're watching this, is any of this to excuse what Alabama did. They should have won. They absolutely should have won. Nick Saban talked about how hard it is to prepare for an option team. And I bring all of this, the analysis that Connor just gave and that, Coach Sean, to you, to say that how wild is it, how unprepared they were. And Bagman, you missed the point respectfully. We're saying that teams with less talent employ that to beat Bama, not that Bama needs more number one recruiting classes. You've mixed the point up there. We're saying how teams that don't have the amount of talent have been able to succeed based off of these offenses against teams that do have more talent. Coach, how unprepared did Bama look? Wouldn't be a live show if someone didn't go on mute.
My bad, man. Hit the mute button. My fault. Apologize. For me, man, the truth is in the details, man. I listen. I listen to what fans say, and I watch other shows, and I watch all these people push their narratives and what they. Listen, man. I'm gonna give it to you straight, respectfully. It's just my humble opinion. this type of offense is very difficult to you almost can't um, put a good product on the field when you play against these offenses, unless you play against these offenses all the time. You know what I mean? It's almost damn near impossible to replicate what you'll see on game day with the option offense. Here's the thing, man, really quickly, the veer, the option, me and Coach Al, we compared notes, talked about this, and I went back and watched it with the sound down. Shout out to Janet. What's up, Janet? How you doing, sweetie? And here's the thing, man. These guys run the veer, you know what I mean? And if you know anything about the veer, certain types of veer, they used a lot of split, a lot, and I mean a lot of split zone blocking schemes, right? If you know anything about football, those split zone blocking schemes are very, very, very difficult to prepare for. Um, any type of zone blocking scheme, Coach J, as you know, especially those split zone blocking schemes, um, you get your offensive line moving in one direction. Some people have the tight end, some people have the H back or peel back. You leave the backside defensive end unblocked on purpose. So your H back or your tight end can always peel back and pick that man up. You know, it's a very difficult scheme to prepare for, man. Very, very difficult. So it has nothing to do with recruits. It has nothing to do with your, I've seen option teams take great teams to the wire, right? When you're talking about split zone, you got to understand, man, they prioritize cutback lanes, over front side gaps. That's just the gist of it. These guys prioritize misdirection, things of that nature. They don't care about picking up 2 yards here. They don't care about picking up 3 yards here, 7 yards here, back to 2 yards, 3 yards, 8 yards, back to 4 yards. They don't care about that. That's what it's built for. It's built to take your middle linebacker's eyes and put them in the wrong place, right? Shout out to Adam. Now, anytime, brother, you can miss me with the recruits and all of that stuff. Anytime there's to those that don't know, there's 15-minute quarters, man. It's 60 minutes in a game, 60 minutes. When you allow another football team to keep the ball for 42, a little over 42 of the 60, you're probably not going to win that game because that's going to tell you that your defense is not getting off the field. We couldn't get off the field. That's just the bottom line, man. Um, you know, the offensive line in these schemes, you have to understand they attack the middle. They focus on the middle. That is what they focused on, man. They block everybody besides the backside defensive end. That's on purpose. They really, really, really attack the middle of the gaps. They attack the middle of the defense. Um, and that's what they done. That's what they done. They may run the same play constantly with different motions. Um, and that's what they did. It's very, very difficult to prepare for these kind of offenses, man. Very, very difficult. Unless you're playing old school Georgia Tech or Georgia Southern every week, and Air Force every week. We may not see this type of offense for the rest of the season. Now, Tennessee does a lot of the same sort of blocking scheme from a spreaded formation, from a very, very spreaded formation, but nothing like we just seen dudes with actual wing backs, real wing backs. People don't even run that anymore, man. So people can say what they want. I've heard people blame the coaches. I've heard people blame the players. It's a little bit of enough blame to go around, bro. You know what I'm saying? And I give it to both because true, those players did not play with any fire. Those guys came out, missed a hell of a lot of assignments, hell of a lot of tackles. But let's be honest. The truth is in the details, man. Western Kentucky, those guys on certain drives, we made them look like world beaters.
10-minute
Forget
drive.
exactly. Forget the score. When is the last time you've seen Western Kentucky have a 13, 14 play drive against Alabama? South Florida. If South Florida had a quarterback that had even a bit of accuracy, we may have been in trouble that game, right? The first half in Wisconsin, they put together 8, 9, 10 play drive. Georgia, the second half. This is not something that just reared its ugly head in Vanderbilt. We have had problems on defense this entire season. Now, I know some fans are going to be like, well, look at the score. What do me and Coach Jay always tell you? We see things not for the game. We see things that could potentially hurt you down the road. And that's exactly what happened. When you're talking about split zone blocking, when you're talking about concentrating on the middle, um, you know, those inside blocking schemes are to create angles, man. That's what they do. It is very difficult to prepare for those type of offenses, right? And we got beat up, man. That's just the bottom line of it. You can't put it on the offense. The offense played 17 minutes, a little over 17 minutes, and scored 35 points, man. If you score 35 points, that should keep Alabama in every game with our defense, if not win it. It just sucks that it had to be Vanderbilt. And that's how I feel about it.
And what you said about attacking the middle is why, Jance, like I said, I don't disagree with you. But whenever we know a team is going to attack the middle and you line up two bandits, which is effectively two defensive ends, and one of our defensive ends, LT Overton, is transitioning from being an edge guy, so this is his first year really playing his true position. Whenever you do that, you're already light in the box. But then you put Q-Rob or Quay in between the bandit and the defensive tackle, almost like a middle linebacker, and you have three down linemen. You have a linebacker standing in between the guys and then two linebackers behind him. I was sitting there pulling my hair out going, okay, you're just asking for this offense to get what they want because they're going to have to fight through so much to get to the point of attack. That, I think, is why, for me, I look, and Coach Sean, I agree with you and Jansen this, that there's enough blame to go around. Yeah. And I am not absolving players. We have seen Jihad Campbell play all world a lot of this year. There was a drive where that running back hit him at the 5 or 6 yard line and took him to the end zone.
Because he didn't engage the player.
Exactly.
Like the same issues we were having with I forgot what his name is. The transfer from Georgia. I completely forgot what his name is. But the same issue we had with him, Jihad Campbell was doing it all game. He wouldn't engage. Like there were times where I'm like, dude, shoot the gap. You see, I understand that you're trying to read the formation, you're trying to read the play, but if there's shoot it. If you shoot it, that's we go from 2 to 3 yard gains to all of a sudden now, yes, they're getting chunks because our linebackers are not shooting the gaps. That was me, Coach Sean, Coach. That's what we complained about all last year. So yeah, I mean, I agree. This scheme doesn't fit these players, right? And I kept saying it on a Coach Sean show. When you have 1 techs playing 3 techs, when you have 3 techs playing 5s, when you have 5 techs playing wideout, I don't know what you want me to do. Like you have an edge player playing a 5, and yes, LT Overton fits the 5 because that's kind of what his A&M pretty much weight drained him. They pretty much weight drained him and sustained him at a certain weight in order for him to be more of an edge player. That's not who he was. But there are other players in this team that are actually natural edge players, and you're putting them at 5. And they're playing, and then they're defending against the run like a Wanze Pierre. How does that make any sense? So the scheme, I don't think that the scheme fits a lot of these certain players. Yes, for the most part. I mean, we always kind of ran some iteration of the 4-2-5 a little bit. Matter of fact, a lot of SC defenses run at least a little iteration of the 4-2-5 defense, but it's not our main base. And Kane Womack, I just think Kane Womack, he doesn't. I'm just starting to believe he doesn't understand his personnel. He doesn't understand his personnel if we're not putting these players into the right possible positions to succeed. And there were a lot of instances in that Vanderbilt game when we were playing in structure, when we were being put in positions to succeed to a point where we could have got 2-3 yard gains. And a lot of it was because of this, and a lot of it is on the safeties and your linebackers and your corners that simply could not come down and tackle. They were arm tackling. They were trying to go for the ball more times than trying to get the player down. I can't blame that on coaching. That's on the players.
Well, I think that's what they've been coached to do. We have Womack saying we're not generating turnovers and that they want to get the ball.
No, I agree. I mean, I agree with that, but at some point, you got to have some sort of pride as a player.
I don't disagree with that. You're right.
You got to have pride, man. And listen, I mean, we got to go back to the basics. We got to go back to teaching tackling drills. I mean, you know, for the most part, you know how I feel, man. I mean, tackle alley. I wish tackle alley wasn't banned for the most part, man, because I know how brutal those tackle drills were. But hey, it'll get you in shape. But we got to go back to the basic foundations of how to wrap up, because it's like that was terrible from what I was witnessing. Like they were no wonder they were getting a lot of confidence. No wonder why the Vanderbilt running backs were getting into our faces and that their quarterbacks were getting into our faces. Look at the technique. It was terrible. So I don't know. Like I agree with you guys. It is 50-50. The scheme doesn't fit these players. I think that again but there are offenses from the first game all the way to this game. They have figured out a way how to exploit this defense and how to drive and push for long chunk drives. This is not a defense that fit that well. It should defend the run pretty well, but unfortunately, I don't think that this coach is utilizing his personnel right for this defense. And again, if we're going to be running this iteration of the 3-3-5, you got to have bigger defensive tackles. If you're going to be running a lot of nickel and dime, you got to have bigger defensive tackles. You cannot have defensive tackles that are 280, 290 pounds, like a Jamarian Latham being pushed on the inside and thinking that you're going to have some success. That's not going to work. You gotta get bigger, or else you gotta go back to like a 4-3. Like I don't know. Like you gotta get bigger in size if you have to run some sort of iteration of the offense. Otherwise, if you want to play smaller, you got to change it up. But I don't know, man. Like it's the basic foundations of this defense is a problem. Like we don't even have the basic foundations laid down for this defense. And again, 5 weeks of this crap. And me and Coach Sean have been getting a lot of hell for it, saying that we were casuals, saying that for the most part that we didn't know what we were talking about. We're being that we're spoiled Bama fans. And you know, it's caught up to us. Like it just, there was finally a team that figured out how to exploit it. And now I can guarantee you every single team that's going to be watching they're going to be watching Vanderbilt tape. They're going to be watching South Florida tape. They're going to be watching Western Kentucky tape. And I'm telling you, they're going to add their own wrinkle. So I don't know. Like I can't even really put into words. That's why I apologize. My words all over the damn place. Cause I don't know what we have to do. If we can't even get the basic foundations down right. If we can't really, if this defense can't even consistently play within structure, especially when Kane Womack does put you in a position to succeed, right? It's bad enough that I don't think that he is doing it. It's terrible. But when he is putting you in a position to succeed, you're not capitalizing. You're not playing within the structure. This is where, I mean, I don't know. Like we have a lot bigger issues, and I think that you know, the media and us are kind of making this out to be. I think it's way bigger. And can it be fixed? I have no idea if it can be fixed, but I don't know. We're getting deeper in the schedule. We're playing more talented football teams. Thankfully, like I said, you're not playing a offense like this probably hopefully for the rest of your schedule. You're going to be playing a lot more spread teams. Tennessee is going to be, you know, Tennessee again is the Revere team, but they're more spread. But I don't know. We'll see what happens.
See, let me say this, Coach Jay and Coach Ty and Connor. If I can be respectfully, I don't give a damn what nobody else say, because I know exactly what I'm talking about. The only difference is what I say, Ty, you see these?
And crimson colored.
They ain't crimson, bro. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to get on here and tell you, oh, it's no big deal he lost to Vanderbilt. Sky falling, no, it's a very big deal. He got your ass whipped by Vanderbilt. It's a very big deal. And whoever tell you it's not, they probably got to put a couple of crimson knees right here. You know what I'm saying? See, the difference is I'm gonna keep it real with you. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna sugarcoat it because I'm an Alabama fan. You know what I mean? I'm gonna tell you the truth as humble as I possibly can. It's a very big deal. You went out and got beat up by Vanderbilt like that. It is. Because one thing about me, bro, I don't care if we win 58-10. I'm gonna see something in that game that may possibly hurt us against better competition. I won't come on here and be like, oh, everything's gonna be fine. No. About 6 games in the season, that's just who you are, bro. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of people don't understand, you know, Stop believing these fans, people. Stop believing these fans, these people that's so fanned out, they won't tell you the truth. You know what I mean? A lot of people don't understand it's a difference in a nose tackle and a defensive tackle. It's a difference. Different techniques, different responsibilities, right? Very rarely do you have a Quentin Williams who could play both, right? Quentin could play the zero technique right over the center. Quentin could play the three technique. Quentin could even play the 4-eye.
He was
Jonathan
rare.
Allen. Jonathan Allen was a
Yeah,
5.
Jonathan Allen. We don't have those type of people right now. So you have to sub package, man. Right? So stop letting people fool y'all, man. Right? And that's the thing, right? I love Tim. Tim is probably the best defensive lineman I think we have, especially for interior play. I love Tim. But if you scoot Tim out of that 0 or 1, I don't think he's as effective. I just don't. Right? I don't think he's lean enough. I don't think he's agile enough. I don't think he's not Aaron Donald or Ed Oliver or Geno Atkins. He's not that type of guy. You know, we don't have those. We have a lot of nose tackles to me, lots of them. I don't know if we have those guys, just like Coach Jay said, to play all those different positions. So you have to sub package these guys. Sure, we got some young guys coming up, like the Jeremiah Beamans, who may be able to play those different positions, but he's young, very young. The Jordan Renards, very young kids, but I think they fit what they're trying to do. So that's just my humble opinion, man. And just for the record, so y'all can go back and tell them, Coach Sean don't give a damn what they say, because I know exactly what I'm talking about, even if they don't. Respectfully.
Well, and Coach Sean, we got on here after the Western Kentucky game and even the Wisconsin game. Jance, you said it. Coach Sean, you said it. I talked about it here on Bleacher Report. I was worried about the Georgia game, their ability to run the football. I was shocked Georgia didn't try and run the football more in that game, but also, your play calling is dictated by needs, right? You get down that early, tough to try and establish a run game. But we all got on here and we're like, hey, they're extending drives on Bama through the run game. Like, I did not think that going into this season that with the talent that was able to be stored in the front seven, that it would be the secondary that is the best part of this defense right now, is the secondary. And I'm not saying they played perfect. Do not get it, twisted. But the secondary is so new, so many new faces. I would have thought that the front seven would have carried the secondary, and really the secondary has been the best part of our defense. And you can say, oh, well, Georgia got a lot of yards on them. That's true. Georgia got a lot of yards on them because Georgia went into desperation mode and had a really great game plan in the second half. And it just did not work out for Bama's defense. But Coach Sean has warned about it. Jance, you've warned about it. And I haven't been as adamant in my warnings, but we have talked about some of these things that would plague Alabama if they didn't get fixed. Well, guess what? They plagued them. And Jance, I think you're 100% right. And Coach Sean, you just talked about this. We have guys being played in weird positions right now. It's why I keep bringing up this 3-3-5 where you have your wolf standing between the bandit and your defensive tackle or nose tackle. I don't know where that's going to work, because if you're an offensive-minded person, you're going to see that, and you can talk to the coaches now. The coach is going to be in their ear saying, attack the edge. They don't have the size on the edge. Bully them. And guess what? Bama got bullied against Vanderbilt. That's the truth of it. Bama got bullied against Vanderbilt. Yes. I wanted to get to this donation real fast. Alex H1738 with the $1.99 super chat. Thank you for being here, Alex. Thank you all for being in here in the chat. The two most valuable assets you have in your life is your time and your health, and you are choosing to spend your time here with us this evening. Do not think that that's lost on me. I can't articulate how much I appreciate each and every one of you. Alex says, y'all see where Jaheim Otis plans to transfer out. And that, listen, I talked about this earlier on the Bama Standard, and that is both simultaneously a big deal and one where I understand. It's easy to say he hasn't played, but we're also not in these formations that call for the big bodies like I thought we were going to be in. Whenever you're playing one defensive tackle or one nose tackle, the two bandits and a wolf, There's only so deep in your defensive line rotation you're going to be in. If we can get a defensive tackle, a nose tackle, a bandit, and a wolf, all of a sudden now you can have a Tim Keenan, a Tim Smith, a Payne, a James Smith, a Jaheim Otis. You can have far more fluidity. But when we look at what Womack is bringing to the table right now, it's just not allowing for that. So I'm not surprised he's hitting the transfer portal. And then with the other $1.99 donation, thank you very much, Alex, saying, I don't think Freddie Roach is a good D-line coach. You know, I used to fight back upon this, but guys, I want to hear y'all's take. I'm right there with you, Jance. Yep. I am and this hurts me because I have been a Freddie Roach supporter. But I watched the defensive line get bullied against Vandy. So I don't know. My worry now, though, is if you go to move with Freddie Roach, like, what does that mean for a Justice Terry? And, you know, someone earlier, I think Anitra, you asked what this means for Bama recruiting. You want to know the one positive about this, gentlemen? And it's not a positive because you lost. But if I am Kane Womack, if I am Kalen DeBoer, really, if I'm Kalen DeBoer, I'm calling Justice Terry and I'm saying, hey, we need you. This isn't a want. This is a necessity. You have a path to playing time early here. We need you. But until Womack is able to make adjustments, I don't know, man. Like, we have not seen Alabama be able to adjust to long drives this year. It's something that, as you guys said, it happened against Western Kentucky. It happened against USF. It happened against Wisconsin. Then we had the comeback against Georgia. And now we saw this game where the defense couldn't get off the field. I don't know, man. I don't know. It's a lot needs to be fixed. But one of the things that has confused me, guys, is I've seen a lot of people saying that, this is on Milroe. This ain't on Milroe. Let me tell you what, that young man is playing elite football right now. You can say he had the pick six, sure, but guys, it wasn't like an interception where he made a crazy read, even if it wasn't like the best read, it wasn't like, there's 4 defenders right there and he threw it straight to a defender. He threw it to the wide receiver. The wide receiver got hit in a bang-bang play. Ball pops up, pick six. That happens. I'm not happy about it, but there's no way people can blame this on Jalen Milroe. The young man still passed for over 300 yards. I mean, it is what it is. Coach Smook in the chat. Shout out, Coach. Moon Rocka in the chat. Eric. Darius. Yeah. I mean, maybe he does go to Georgia, Darius. I don't know. It could be anywhere.
Yeah, Darius, we don't give a damn.
Yeah.
None of your business. What you keep tweeting that for? We don't care.
Yeah, listen, if he's not with Bama, I wish him all the luck, right? No hard feelings. I think he's a hell of a player. Now, guys, where does Alabama go from here as we round this out? Jance, I want to start with you. What do they need to fix in the short term to be able to go up against South Carolina? Because South Carolina's got a mobile quarterback. They've got a really good running back. What's hurt Alabama this year?
You got to work on tackling. Got to work on it. I'm going to continue to say this. I'm going to continue to pound hard on this. I don't think that you can entirely fix this scheme. You had an entire offseason to do it. You're not going to, like I said, you're going to add some simplifications through this defense to make it a little easier on the personnel. But you're not going to rewrite the book on it. But the one thing you can fix is you can fix tackling. Like I said, I'm not going to put it all on Kane Womack in that Vanderbilt game. I thought it was a 50-50 issue. The tackling was terrible. These players got to be more aggressive. They got to be more assertive. These guys, I mean, your linebackers they got to hit the hole. They got to hit the gap. If it's a wide open gap and you have an opportunity to meet the runner 2-3 to beat the runner, especially in the line of scrimmage, you got to do it. You can't wait. You have to launch. your defensive line, if they're winning battles, and there were times where they were winning battles in line of scrimmage, you can't miss tackles. You can't. Your safeties got to do a better job at coming down and tackling. Our edge defenders, whether again they're out of position, but it is what it is. We got to do a better job at setting the edge. We got to do a better job of protecting the interior. This is what's just so frustrating about all this, man, is because again, we had an entire offseason to fix it. And this is not, and since game one, this has kind of been an issue where you've seen teams have long, methodical drives. Like the one thing you can fix, man, is that when you are playing in phase, when you're playing in structure, you got to deal with your assignment. Because if you continue to miss assignments, you know, while playing within the structure of the defense, there's not that much Kane Womack can do. Like, that's not Kane Womack's fault. That's the player's fault. So that's what we can do. That's what we can fix. Again, I think Kane Womack, I think they're going to go back to the drawing board. Hopefully they can go back to the drawing board and maybe, you know, incorporate some iterations, maybe decide to go a little bit heavier since South Carolina is more of a run first team. You know, they have a lot more, you know, they definitely have more of a mobile quarterback. So hopefully we can run a lot heavier on the defensive line. Maybe get our edge defenders to push out a little bit out, to push a little bit more out wide. You know, but I don't know. We'll see, man. We'll kind of see what happens, man. But the one thing that I definitely think that we should do a much better job at doing, we got to do a better job at tackling.
100%. Connor, any thoughts for what you think Bama needs to improve on before South Carolina? Because anybody who thinks South Carolina is a gimme, I got other news for you. They got a really good defensive front, and they have a mobile quarterback with a really good running back.
I'm going to say 48-6. They're going to say 48-6, Connor. You watch. 51-10. Watch.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think the defense and the run defense especially needs to be better. And I think loading the mocks makes a whole lot of sense for that. You know, you shouldn't have Vanderbilt running across the field against you. You know, that's a team that you should be able to stop in the running game. You know, if they're going to beat you in the passing game, so be it. But in my estimation, it makes sense to load the box. You know, Alabama has one of the best defensive secondaries in the country. You need to trust them to be able to do their job and commit to stopping the run. I think that makes the most sense for where I see them right now.
Coach Sean.
I mean, for me, man, it's pretty cut and dry, man. We got to play responsibility football. We didn't play responsibility football against Vanderbilt. We just didn't. We didn't play responsibility football. People got to do their job, man. The players have to do their job. Everybody has an assignment. You have to do your job. The good news is to all the fans is they don't give national championship trophies after week 5. That's the good news. The bad news is I hadn't seen any progression late in the games in our defensive front. It's like we start off very, very well, but it's like the later in games, we sort of lose composure. We lose assignment-based football. And I've seen that in every game we played. Late in the games, especially, we sort of, preferably after halftime. You know, the Wisconsin game, we sort of, you know, buckled down on that game. We had our miscues early in the game, but other than the Wisconsin game, even South Florida, in the second half, it's almost like, I don't know, man, it's like we start blowing a lot of assignments. So we just got to play responsibility football, man. We got to get back to doing what we need to do. Don't matter which scheme we play, you know what I mean, at this point in the season. You got to play responsibility-based football. And if we do that, we should be fine, right? Because one thing about it, the offense is proven they're going to score. They've proven that. The offense is going to score. When you can go out and score 35 points in 17 minutes, man, you know, 8 drives and you score 8 drives, I think it was, and you score on 5 of them, 8 or 9 drives, and you score on 5 of them. The offense is going to score. We just need the defense to get it in gear, man. You know, get it in gear, be more aggressive. I think the back end need to play better. I think our Rovers need to play better no matter who they play out there. The Rovers need to play better. These guys are not aggressive right now in the run game. They're getting hurt and getting ran over and getting beaten pass coverage. And, if I see that at home, SEC coaches damn sure see it. And that's just the bottom line, man. You can dress it up how you want. You can make all the excuses you want, right? But that's the truth. You
Well,
go
what
ask
did
George
Tennessee
Teague.
do whenever they
Yeah,
beat Bama? They got on the advantageous matchup. You don't
yeah.
think that they're going to do the same to the Rover? You know what I
That's a
mean?
whole
Like,
fact.
they're going to
That's, I
get them
mean,
and then go.
it's the truth, man. George Teague would tell you the same thing. George is very well versed in what they're doing out there. He'll tell you the same thing. So we got to get that tightened up. I said in the beginning of the season, Coach Jay said it, Ty said it. It's okay if you want to go to the 4-2-5, that nickel. Okay, cool. I ain't got no problem with it. But you better have some DBs that want to come up and tackle. You better have some DBs that want to bring the thunder. I'm not talking about for a play here, a play there. They better be wanting to play in that box at times, right? And you got to have that stalwart. Now I get it. We've recruited very well the players that's going to come in and really be successful playing in this defense. If you look at all these different linebackers, these versatile linebackers that could probably play safety, but are linebackers in high school. I see that where they're going with the recruiting. I see with the Dawson Merritt and all these guys who are very, very, very versatile. I get it. But for right now, you got to shore that defense up, man. You just do. You can talk scheme all you want. You can talk player attitude and player accountability. You got to shore that defensive up, man, because the Rovers are getting attacked by everybody right now. Everybody, Western Kentucky, everybody. So you got to shore that thing up, man. And that's just the truth of the matter.
100%, 100%. And Chris Williams, I know you're our resident Auburn fan, but I do agree with you right here, and you're not wrong. The linebackers on Saturday, at least, they didn't look like they wanted to hit at the point of attack. You're not wrong there. You are certainly not wrong there. That's something we've all talked about, and that absolutely showed. That absolutely showed, and it is what it is. Now, I did
Something
see
else
someone
really
say,
quickly.
"Go ahead,
I'm
Coach.
sorry.
Go ahead."
Really quickly, something that really did. Their tendencies on defense in the past, Quindarius and Robinson was always the pass rush guy. Q-Rod played, practically the most of the game on run downs, and he's great in space. He's great, on third down, rushing the passer. But I noticed in the past we've sub-packaged on run downs with these other guys, these run package guys. And we didn't really do that this past week. And so I don't know if they have a run packet. I don't know. I just know we got to find an identity on the defense. We got to be able to stop something. We got to be able to stop something, man. Right? It's no excuse to play so fundamentally sound in first halves and so bad in second halves. And in Vanderbilt's case, really, we didn't stop them the entire game. I'm not even sure if Vanderbilt punted at all. I don't think they had 1 3 and out, if you ask me.
They had one punt. Well, they had two punts. They had two punts, but one of them, the one punt, was because we had two of the same jerseys on the same field, which resulted in them scoring on that drive. And then the other punt, it was literally because the wide receiver dropped it. I think the wide receiver went out, dropped the wide open pass 15 yards down the field. Otherwise, they would have scored on the drive.
That's a whole fact. And I guess having 2 number 2s ain't coaching either, right? When they scream punt team, I guess that's not on the coaches either.
That was egregious.
Come on, man. Like, let's just be real, bro. It's enough blame to go around to everybody, right? Coaches, players, scheme, all of it. If I'm gonna praise you on the Georgia game and give you all the love, then by God, I'm gonna tell the truth about you when you go out here and get your ass whipped by Vanderbilt. And that's
100%.
just the truth.
100%.
That's just the truth.
LK saying, "What if Vandy's an 8-4?" Listen, I think Vandy's a much improved team. Bama still should win that game. Two things can be true at the same time. Vandy is a much improved team. Bama should still win that game. Spiffy says South Carolina is coming in hungry, knowing I don't disagree with you, but right now, Spiffy, the only team that is undefeated in the SEC is Texas. Right? Every team in the SEC right now has had blood drawn. And it is what it is, right? It is what it is. And the transitive property doesn't work in college football, right? Thinking that, oh, well, this team beat this team, so it must be the same, right? Because you said Vandy lost to Georgia State. Well, if Bama's so bad because Bama lost to Vandy, Bama beat Georgia, And we know Georgia's a really good team. So that's what I mean. The transitive property doesn't work in college football. Unfortunately, it doesn't. That's just kind of what it is. Now, guys, I did want to talk about some Heisman talk here because Connor has got some interesting stats on who I believe should be the Heisman frontrunner. I believe should be getting the award, especially if he just keeps this up. Connor, talk to us about an incredible football player this year.
For sure. Yeah. So I could talk about Ashton Jeanty probably all day. So brevity has never been my strong suit, but I'm going to try and keep this at least relatively short. So first of all, real quick scouting report on Ashton Jeanty. So obviously plays running back for Boise State. He's an outstanding runner of the football. More on that later. I can address some of that with the stats. But I think a lot of what people are really excited about who watch Ashton Jeanty play regularly is a lot of the intangibles and the types of things that don't actually show up on the stat sheet. So this year, Boise State has one of the better offenses in the country. Last year, that was not the case. Ashton Jeanty still played for us last year, and really our offense was struggling. And so since he was our best player, we were looking to get him involved in the offense however they could. And so that included motioning him out wide and running him in passing routes because we needed to, anything that we could get to get him the ball. Last year, this is no longer really the case because our wide receiving core is a lot better this year than it was last year. But our passing attack was non-existent, and Ashton Jeanty was our literal best wide receiver last season at the running back position. So he's incredibly versatile. He's going to be a real threat going forward, hopefully playing on Sundays as a pass catcher. And I think probably the most unsung thing that he does, that anyone I know that really knows football will talk about the importance of this as a running back position: pass protection. He's an incredibly willing pass blocker as the running back. And so obviously that's something that a lot of top level running backs, they might not necessarily, have that kind of ability as well to really get their noses dirty and get in there and pass protect. Ashton Jeanty is going to do that. So I think those two intangibles on top of everything else he's bringing is really just kind of cherry on top of the cake. But wanted to share some quick stats with y'all about Ashton Jeanty here, just because, I think we all know that he's been really dominant, but I don't know if we really recognize the extent to which he's been dominant. So Ashton Jeanty currently leads the country both in rushing yards and in rushing touchdowns, but it's a lot more dramatic than that. So Ashton Jeanty, as mentioned, first in the country in total rushing yards, but Ashton Jeanty also has 755 yards after contact. If you were to take only Ashton Jeanty's yards after contact, not his yards before contact, and compare that to other running backs' total yards, both before contact and after contact, he would still be the third leading rusher in the nation. He has 755 yards after contact. The second leading rusher, because he's the first leading rusher, has 771 yards rushing total. That means that Ashton Jeanty has only 16 yards less rushing yards after contact than the next best running back has total. He's only 16 yards away from passing him just in yards after contact, which is wild. In addition to that, Ashton Jeanty has 16 rushing touchdowns on the year. Because we've just kind of discussed, it's not really fair to compare Ashton Jeanty to another individual person. Let's compare Ashton Jeanty's touchdown output to entire FBS offense's output. Okay, there are 43 college football teams in FBS that have scored 16 touchdowns or less this season. That means that 1/3 of college football offenses have scored less than Ashton Jeanty has scored by himself. That is wild to me. And just to poke a little bit of fun at two of the bigger blue bloods here, Ashton Jeanty has scored the same amount of touchdowns as UCLA and Florida State's offenses combined. That is wild to me. So really, really great performance so far this season from Ashton Jeanty. Totally understand, he is playing in a non-group of five conference. So I realize that the talent level that he's playing against is probably not the same standard of talent that you're playing in the SEC. But these stats don't lie. He's been incredible. Two other quick things to point out. He's done all this sitting out the second half of 2 different football games this season, not because of injury or anything, just because Boise State was up by so much that they didn't want him to get hurt. So he's effectively sat out an entire football game this season, and he still has these type of stat lines. Last point I'd like to make, obviously, Boise State is playing in the Mountain West, level of competition not as high, but Boise State does already have wins against Washington State on their schedule, a Washington State team that's currently 4-1 with multiple Power 5 or Power 4 now, I guess it is, wins. And we lost to Oregon by 3 points in Oregon. So we do have some pretty formidable competition on the schedule that Ashton Jeanty has really just steamrolled. So definitely want to keep an eye out if you haven't seen him play yet. This is a person that will hurdle over defenders that are standing straight up and then proceed to outrun the entire secondary for a touchdown. So he is just next level to watch. And if you haven't seen him, highly recommend checking out a Boise State game and taking in some of his action.
Speed, if you haven't seen him, he's on Boise State.
He's the best back in the country. It's not even a discussion. It's not even, I'm sorry to cut you off, Ty. Please. No, it's not even a discussion, man. And he should, and honestly, that's a first round talent. I said it last year. I'm gonna say it again, and definitely I'm glad that he's getting the recognition that he is. Guys, if you haven't seen anything about Ashton Jeanty, watch that Oregon game. And the thing that was impressive to me was that they were meeting him at the line of scrimmage, and he's just bouncing off of players and he's getting 4 or 5 yards after contact. Like he had how many yards? I think almost 200 rush yards against Oregon. Yeah, and that defensive line isn't bad. That's a good defensive line. And they're meeting him that was the one game where I think Boise State's and they played really well that game, but that was the closest I've seen to consistent pressure on Jeanty meeting them at the point of attack, and he's bouncing off of him because he has elite contact balance. His ability to kind of read certain blocks, his ability to cut on a dime, his speed. He's the best pass blocker, he's the best pass blocker in this draft class. I would say second is probably Hampton, but I mean he's an insane pass blocker. The dude's going to be a first-round pick. The only question mark I think about Jeanty was his size because he's 5'9". But who cares, man? I mean, you're 5'9", you're 215 pounds. You're a big back, man. And so, I mean, the dude has a rare combination of burst and long speed, soft natural. I mean, the dude has soft natural hands with the white catch radiance. He's a workhorse back. Sorry for that. And I mean, dude, I don't know. He runs with exceptional pad level and drive. I have not seen one time where he's fell backwards a lot. I mean, the dude continues to fall forward. No validity there. And I mean, there's nothing to say. The dude's a game. If you guys ever played street football, man, he's a game breaker. It's just nothing I can. How the hell did people pass on this coming out of Jacksonville, Florida? I have no idea. That dude is. He is. I'm not going to sit up here and say he's one of the best running prospects that in this that we've seen in the last 10 years. I'm not going to sit up here and say that, but I definitely think this is the best running back prospect I think I've seen probably since Breece Hall came out. Breece Hall was an elite NFL prospect coming out, but I don't know. Jeanty is insane. He's a beast. He's the best running back, and he's not. Listen. The toughest part of their schedule is gone. You played Oregon, and he ran for 192 yards in that game, including one for, I think, 65 yards. The dude, he's going to win the Heisman. I don't care about the small school crap. I don't care what the competition is. The point is that when you play against the big-time competition, what do you look like in those big-time games? And the dude has not failed. Matter of fact, he's exceeded expectations. He's on pace for 2,000 yards rushing. He's on pace for probably around at least 20 rushing touchdowns. He's on pace for maybe getting 7 yards per carry. Give him the. Travis Hunter's had a wonderful season, and it's a once in a lifetime sort of instance. But even a once in a lifetime sort of stat line is no match for Mr. Jeanty. You got to give him the Heisman Trophy.
Yeah, I would echo that. And I think not to correct you here, because I would echo everything that you said. I think he's actually, at least when I checked this morning, averaging 10.5 yards a carry. So he's averaging.
Oh, well, there it is. I'm mistaken.
It's nuts. It's nuts.
Guys, I'm not saying Travis Hunter is exceptional. this guy is on, like, what he is doing for his team, unbelievable. Eric D says he looks like Barry Sanders. Moonrock, a shout out to you in the chat. I've seen some of your messages, haven't gotten the opportunity to shout you out. Thank you once again for everybody being in the chat. Y'all already know. Don't think we don't see the trolls, but Bama lost. And we already know what happens when Bama lost. People who have been waiting their entire lives for this moment come out. And I've always said, as long as you aren't disrespecting anybody on the panel or anybody in chat, it is what it is, right? YouTube is built through interaction. And the more interaction a stream generates, the more it gets put into the algorithm. So long as it's all respectful, you're just helping my interaction, and I very much will appreciate that. And it has been respectful thus far from what I've seen. That's from what I've seen. Moon Rocka says you always show love, much respect. Of course, Moon. I still need to get on that workout regime, right? Because my man, I said something about some protein powder, and he came correct, telling me, hey, you need to do this, that, and the other. I need to get on the full regiment because you got to figure it out, man. And KJ, nah, Coach Sean is as real as it gets in terms of...
Can I answer him, Ty? And I'll be respectful, Ty. I won't.
Of course.
You better be glad you didn't ask me that on my channel. I don't even know what a fair weather fan is. I guess that's some of y'all internet folks do. I don't know nothing about what that is, right? I'm not going to agree with you. So if that's what that makes me a fair weather fan, yes, please label me that. Because I damn sure don't agree with you.
I think
so we'll say it like that. Please label me that. Label Coach Sean the fair weather fan, because I don't agree with your goofy ass at all. I ain't fanned out like you. You know what I mean? End of story. You can proceed.
Listen, if the weather's fair, that's a good thing. That means we're outside, we're out here talking, we're out here having fun. And yeah, Coach Sean is easily one of the most knowledgeable people in the world.
I don't care them what they talking about, Ty. He's just them internet folks. I don't care about that.
Yeah,
go ahead and proceed, bro.
There's a reason why he's on the stream all the time, right? Because he is so knowledgeable, and it's just awesome that he grants us with his time. Coach Sean, you are a running back.
Yes, sir.
How proud are you seeing a guy like Ashton Jeanty go out there and just dominate at the level he is? And from a running back, I don't know how much you've gotten to watch him, but how impressed are you at his ability?
Anytime you can give running backs love in this day and age, I appreciate it, because running backs seem to be falling to the wayside. They seem to be, even in the NFL, it seems like they're getting picked later and later in drafts. It's a passing league. So anytime from college football, I mean, for me, really from youth league on up, anytime a running back can get some love, I appreciate that. I really, really, really appreciate that. And to see what this young man is doing, I had to, honestly, to be completely honest, when I really hadn't heard the young man until I heard the name, in the highlights on Saturday, until Ty put me on him. And I went and looked at the young man. Of course, I would see the highlights. And I really educated myself to this young man here within the last 2 or 3 weeks. And I was blown away by this kid, man. I was like, why is this kid, his kid should be up here playing somewhere, right? But to see the way they're using, to see the things he's doing, to see this kid's versatility, catching the ball, running the ball, I have nothing but appreciation for any time a running back can really, really, really step out the shadow of the quarterback, of the great defensive player. And so I definitely have a huge appreciation for what the young man is doing. And I hope he goes far with it. I hope he's right there in the mix of the Heisman race. I hope he keeps it up. And I'll definitely be pulling for him. Definitely pulling for him.
Coach I and Jack. Sorry,
Ty.
Nah, Coach, I don't pay them no attention, bro. I actually see dude in my chat all the time. It's cool. I just was respectful, let him know. If that means I don't have to agree with you, yes, label me that. Label me whatever the hell it is where I don't have to agree with you. Label me that. That's me.
Don't know what I haven't seen these the bots. And I'm not talking about anybody. I mean, like, genuinely the bots. Y'all just saw I deleted all those comments. I haven't seen bots in a YouTube stream in so long. Yeah, Goof, you saw it too? I haven't seen that in a minute. I have not seen that in a minute. YouTube's back, baby. We're back to battling the bots. I knew we'd get back. Hell yeah. Go ahead, Connor.
Yeah, so Coach Sean, I was just going to tell you a quick anecdote here because you mentioned you appreciate running backs getting love. So as you might have
Sure.
noticed, I'm trying to get away from calling Boise State "we" if I'm trying to transition into being a little more of an analyst. Probably not professional for me to call them "we," but I do live here in Boise. So I have always been a lifetime Boise State fan. And talking about getting love for Ashton Jeanty, he is a bona fide superstar here in Boise. So Boise city government, in order to raise money for snow removal services, the city was trying to buy a new snowplow. So in order to, they did this initiative where if the voters passed a bond to get a new snowplow, the local population could decide what to name the new snowplow. And so the city of Boise voted that the new snowplow be named Ashton Jeanty. So there is an Ashton Jeanty snowplow here in Boise now. So he's very much getting the love here in Boise.
Sir. Yes, sir. Anytime a running back can get it, sign me up. I'm all for that.
Well, and I think that the other type, I do love that, the snowplow being, that's awesome. I think that the other side of this is like, who else would get it? Right? Like, he is having such an impressive year. Listen, Cam Ward, I know Miami has had some close games. Cam Ward's playing really good football. Like, sure, you can nitpick moments. You can nitpick moments for any college football player out there right now. Maybe except for Jeanty. But who else? Jance, I'm going to start with you. Who else is even in the argument? I mean, you brought up one name earlier, but outside of Hunter, like, who are you looking at right now? I think Milrose having a great season. The loss to Vandy doesn't help, but once again, that wasn't on him. What's your Heisman looking like if we're doing a way too early list?
It would be Jeanty. It would be Jeanty right now. It would be of course Travis Hunter at number 2, and then I would say and then I'll put Cam Ward at number 3. Because again, the back-to-back games where you're coming back down a lot, especially in that last game, you're down 35-10, you come back and you kind of will your team to win. We got to give them a lot of credit. Now, this Miami team's overrated as hell, and I've been saying it since they beat Florida. It's overrated as all hell, and this team will make the playoffs because they'll suffer a lot. They'll suffer about a loss or two, but I think they'll suffer that second loss in their conference championship game. It's not going to bounce them out. They'll be in there and they'll get eliminated in the first round. But Cam Ward, I think he's been playing phenomenal football. I think he's been playing really, really good football, willing his teams to win. Now, he's not been perfect. Again, these disguise coverages are killing him. Like, I mean, his ability to kind of read these disguise coverages, I know it's tough, especially for more of a pro style guy, but he's getting killed. Like they're just baiting him to throw in certain spots, and he's not really diagnosing that. So, and I'm telling you, man, the scouting department is going to kill him. So we'll see what happens there. But and then also too, man, he's got to stop throwing it across his body. Like he tries to be too much of a playmaker. Like he does have a tendency sometimes where I think he thinks he's faster than what he actually is. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like he's like, he's been such a playmaker. He's been creating certain plays that sometimes it's great when you have the opportunity to improvise, and especially if you're really good at doing it, take those chances. But if it's to a point now where you're just throwing it across your body, and Cam Ward doesn't have the strongest arm. It's not like he has a Josh Allen bazooka arm. Like, I think he has a pretty solid arm. He doesn't have a great arm. And so he's got to stop. Sometimes, man, just throw the ball away, live for another down, instead of just throwing it across your body and continue to go ahead and make plays. But I would say I would definitely put Cam Ward at number 3, only because I think that he's had the two bigger, out of all the players, he's had the more impact. I think he's had the impactful moments, coming back down twice, willing his teams to win. I think we got to give him a lot of kudos for that. I would say 4th, I'm going to put Jalen Milroe at number 4. Only because, again, he hasn't had a bad season. He's only thrown two interceptions. He beat Georgia, which is one of the best, which has one of the best defenses in the nation. Stuff like that. So got to put Jalen Milroe in there because I think he has the marquee win. He's got, he has the biggest marquee win of the season. And then 5, it's you can put whoever you want to put at number 5. I have no idea who's going to be there. If Quinn Ewers was healthy, if Quinn Ewers was healthy, who there? Maybe you could put a Shedeur Sanders in that discussion. But I'm just going to tell you this right here, man. I think it's a top. It's not even really a top 3. I honestly believe that when New York sends their invitations, it should only be to 2 players, and that should be to Jeanty and it should be to Travis Hunter, because yes, Cam Ward, he's had 2 really good marquee wins. Well, no, I can't say marquee wins. He's had 2 really good wins in his resume in terms of, yes, these are Heisman worthy performances. In terms of the moment, maybe not the stat line, but in terms of the moment of being down that much twice and coming back and winning. But at the same time, though, he's doing it against inferior competition. It's not like he's playing against Clemson or he's playing against a high marquee opponent. Otherwise, if he did it against those like top 10, top 15 marquee opponents, Cam Ward might have an argument to be number 1, but he's doing it against inferior competition where Miami is, they're at least a -10 favorite in those football games. So to me, it's 2 people. It's Jeanty and Travis Hunter. Until if one of them gets hurt, obviously that ends the discussion. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but it's between those 2 players.
Connor, as I pass it to you, my list is pretty much the exact same as Jance's, but I am going to be a little bit more of a homer, right? I have Milroe right there in terms of the top 3. I have Milroe there. As great as Cam Ward has been, and yes, the stats are more eye-popping. Yes, he doesn't have a loss, but he doesn't have a Georgia win in which he went ballistic, throwing for over 300 yards, running for another 100 yards. Like, that's unbelievable. So I would easily have Milroe in my top 3, but I have Jeanty number 1. Connor, give us your list real fast for the all too early Heisman race.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would echo a lot of what's already been said, honestly. Obviously, I was just really hardcore stumping for Ashton Jeanty. That's my pick for the Heisman, at least at this point in the season. Obviously, a lot of football to be played, so it remains to be seen how the season's played out. But as was discussed earlier, kind of a product of Boise State's schedule, because they play in a weaker conference, they front load their schedule as much as they can, and they schedule as challenging of a games as they can in the non-conference. So Ashton Jeanty has already faced kind of the best competition that he will face throughout the season. Did quite well against that competition. So if I was casting a ballot today, which unfortunately I don't have one of those, but I would be casting my vote for Ashton Jeanty. Now, I do see the race, for me, at least in my opinion right now, is a little bit of a 1A, 1B race, because I would give a lot of love to Travis Hunter. I would echo what's been said there. I am always enamored with athletes that can do multiple different things at an incredibly high level, whether that be multi-sport athletes or athletes that can play multiple sides of the ball, multiple positions at an incredibly high level. The fact that Travis Hunter is playing both sides of the ball almost every snap of almost every game is insanity to me. And he's doing it at a high level. It's not just like he's some guy out there. He is the team's best offensive, one of 2 of the team's best offensive players and the team's best defensive player. That's incredibly difficult to do. And so, similar to what we see with Shohei Ohtani, before his injury, pitching and hitting and baseball, when you can do 2 things like that in an incredibly high level, that carries a lot of weight to me. So even though I am an Ashton Jeanty guy through and through, I got to give a lot of love to Travis Hunter and the season that he's having. That's incredibly difficult to do on both sides of the ball. So that's amazing to me. So for me, it's really kind of a 2-horse race at this point between those 2. But I would give a lot of love to Jalen Milroe. Obviously Alabama has a lot of issues that they need to correct, predominantly on the defensive side of the ball. But as we talked about a lot, and as I've heard you all talk about a lot, the offense does not seem to be the problem. And Jalen Milroe, was a lot of the reason that Alabama beat Georgia. That's the biggest win of the year that anybody has on their resume right now, other than maybe Vanderbilt.
Oh, don't say it.
But they have a signature win, and there's a lot of football left to be played. And so, that we might end up seeing Alabama continue their dominance. It could be that this game against Vanderbilt was more of a blip. And if so, I think Jalen Milroe is going to walk right back into that conversation.
Coach Sean.
About the same. Travis Hunter, Jeanty, Jalen, Cam Ward right now. I mean, I don't really know if it's any other people you could actually put in there. Jackson Dart, the quarterback in USC, Dylan Gabriel. I mean, I don't really think those guys are up there. I think they're those second-tier guys. I think those 4 guys are right now who I would definitely have 1 through 4.
I don't think that there's a way to argue it, right? And I starred your comment, Anthony. Wanted to get to it, but as always, wanted to allow for a break in the action. And then Nichols, I'll address yours as well. It's just Travis Hunter, to me, I don't think he can win the Heisman. He would have to do a great year in both positions in order to do that. I think it's very hard whenever you do what he does to play both sides of the ball. But I do think he's having a great year. I mean, the guy is a demon in coverage. And his ability in zone is unreal. I mean, it's like watching Picasso paint sometimes. His ability to be in his zone, be floating back on a guy that he's taking deeper into his zone, and then diagnose, oh, you're going to go underneath and break off of where he is and intercept the football or get a pass break. I mean, it's insane. And then as a wide receiver, he's such a big part of that offense as well. He's just an unbelievable football player. I'm going to say this right now. I talked earlier on a stream with Mike Boganowski Sr., right? Michael Boganowski Jr.'s father, defensive back for Oklahoma. And he was saying guys like Travis Hunter, guys like Ryan Williams, enjoy them while they're in college because you're not getting 4 years of those cats. They're going to be in college for 3 years, and then they're going to the NFL where they're going to do incredible things. So enjoy the moments for these players. Enjoy it. I mean, it's just an unbelievable year in college football, sadly, for us. But I think the good news is so many teams lost on Saturday is it's just like the parity this year is just different. Different than maybe since 2007, maybe, because touchdown. No asks, why is Notre Dame still a thing? And I love Truth's response, because touchdown Jesus. That's why Notre Dame is still a thing, is you got touchdown Jesus on the side of the stadium, echoing in all to come. Guys, as we're winding down, let's talk a little bit about the Red River Shootout. I know a lot of people call it the Red River Rivalry. It is the Red River Shootout. Fascinating game as always, and I think it's very easy if you have just watched a little bit of both teams to say Texas wins this game. But Truth, being the Texas fan in here, he can tell you this game is like Iron Bowls and Jordan-Hare Stadium. I don't know what happens, but something happens. And all conventional wisdom goes out. Connor, what are you looking for in this Red River Shootout game that you're most excited to see?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a great game, obviously. You know, it's one of the marquee rivalries in all of college football. So as just a kind of, you know, onlooker of the SEC, not someone who has a horse in the race, you know, this is obviously, these teams are new to the SEC, but this is one of college football's greatest rivalries. And so I think it's a game that even as a casual fan, anyone's really excited for. I am one of those fans that you are talking about when you said, you know, if you've only seen, you know, glimpses of Oklahoma and Texas play. I'll admit I haven't really studied either of these teams. I do think Texas, incredibly talented, obviously skilled team this year. But, you know, throw the records and throw the recruiting rankings and everything out of the window when you have a rivalry game, because, you know, anything can happen in a game like this. And I think the history of the series will tell you that. So I'm leaning Texas. I think that Texas is probably the more likely victor in this game. But, you know, I could see it going either way any year. And I don't think there's a significant amount differentiating between these two teams. So I look for Texas in a close one.
Moon, that's exactly why I say it, because I get tongue-tied. Every time I try and say Red River Rivalry, I have to really enunciate, because if not, it does not sound good. Coach Sean, talk to me about the big rivalry coming up this weekend.
Is Quinn playing? Has that news came out yet?
I believe he is.
I seen where they had Texas favored by 14.5, I think. 14,
I would take
14
the
and a
under.
half. And the over-under was 50. So I was like, man, that's a low over-under when you're talking about beating them by 14. So, you know, I look for Oklahoma to cover those. I would look for Oklahoma. I don't think they're going to beat Oklahoma by no 14 points. I just don't believe it. That is a rivalry game. I know Oklahoma is still finding themselves offensively. Really one game since the young man has started down at Auburn. I don't know, man. I mean, I really don't know. I'm not educated enough on these Red River shootouts to take a pick. You know, odds are that Texas should win. I'm not really sure who wins this game. This will be my first time really. I've watched the game obviously before. I've been out there before, but I hadn't engulfed myself in this rivalry yet, like I have this week. And it's gonna be interesting for me. So I don't really know who wins this game. I'll be definitely right there, checking these guys out, seeing the fandom. I see that the game is now at 2:30 instead of the early kick like they usually do. Used to be what 11:30, somewhere along in there. I think it's 2:30 now. So it's gonna be interesting. Does Texas come out and do what Texas has been doing? Does Oklahoma come out, who's hot right now, who's played pretty decently since they implemented a new starter at quarterback? Do they come out and play well? This will be Texas's biggest test because um, they've probably played Alabama high school for the blind, you know what I mean, all season. So I want to see them play some like-minded competition this week, and it gets no more like-minded than their rivalry against Oklahoma. So I don't really know who wins this game, man. I'm just gonna be a fan watching, but it's gonna be interesting, and it's gonna be interesting to see how Texas responds and how Oklahoma responds.
I love Truth so much, Coach Sean. He says, "Well, Michigan high school for the blind, to be fair."
Yeah, facts.
And Truth, I will always grant you this. I think Michigan's defense, good. They're a good squad. Just, man, they had no offense. Now, part of that is I think your defense has played very well. I give you credit there. But I think as time has gone on, we've realized that Michigan, they don't have an offense figured out yet. I think Mullins is a great player. Really am a fan of him, but I just don't know that they have their offense figured out yet.
Quick question before you pass it to Jance.
Of course.
Let's say Quinn starts. He hadn't played in a few weeks. What if he comes out looking rough and Oklahoma takes the lead? Do you go to Arch or do you let him finish the game?
That's actually a fascinating question.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to that. I really don't. Because Arch has played very well. Quinn was playing really good football before he got hurt, and that's why his injury hurt me so much, is because I've said this so many times. I covered Quinn in high school, right? I was interning for Dave Campbell's whenever he was in high school, and I know how good he is, and he's a good dude, right? He's a real good dude. And so I was very upset when he got hurt this year because it all came together. I think they let it ride out with Quinn, but Arch played well, Coach, and I think because of that, you pose a very intriguing question. Jance, talk to me about the Red River shootout. I am not going to call it the Red River rivalry because every time I do so, I have to say it all wonky or else I'm going to butcher it.
Oh, it's gonna be a fun game, man. It's gonna be it's gonna be a very, very fun game. I'm very interested to see what Oklahoma's offense is going to present to the table, especially that Michael Hawkins now has played for the first couple of weeks. And I think that he's gotten some improvement. You can definitely see some of the capability within his game. It's going to be a very interesting football game because Oklahoma's defense is very good. Now the injuries that they suffered is insane. They've still been, it's like they've like this team needs surgery, man, but it's like, you got a Band-Aid kind of holding it together. So we'll kind of see what happens there, man. But it's gonna be Oklahoma's defense versus Texas offense. I think for Oklahoma to win this game, they got to figure out a way. How do you kind of dictate the football game? How do you, right? I think Oklahoma's key to win. They have to dominate on the line of scrimmage. They have to try to control the clock. They have to have slow, methodical, like very similar to how football teams are doing against Alabama, when they're just getting these slow, methodical drives and taking 5-6 minutes off the clock per drive. That's what Oklahoma has to do. You have to keep Texas offense off the field. Can't give this offense a lot of opportunities, especially because Steve Sarkisian, he's going to figure out how to pick you apart. And, last year, for the most part, it was a shootout because you had Dylan Gabriel. You also, for the most part, like Texas, like they've seen a lot of looks. I mean, they were showed a lot of looks that they just haven't seen. They just haven't seen before on tape. And so Oklahoma, yeah, they made it. That's their championship. Very similar to when Texas were the underdogs. They made it their championship. They were showing looks that they just haven't seen, that no other team on film hasn't been able to see before. So this is going to be one of those interesting cases where, Michael Hawkins, you're going to have to unleash him. You can't just run a simplified version of this offense of what you're trying to do, Steve Latrell, and hope then pray that you can beat Texas this way. No, they're very, very good. They're very, very good on the line of scrimmage. They're deep at defensive tackle. Colin Simmons has been an absolute stud, coming off the edge. Like if I'm Texas, honestly, what they might do is they may play 5, 6, maybe even 7 dudes up the box. Don't be surprised if they play a lot of cover zero. Like if they play a lot of, like, very similar to what Tennessee were doing in that second half, where they were just playing a lot of cover zero, and if they were just playing cover one high. They were just playing cover one high press. Like, don't be surprised if you see that. Don't be, because Oklahoma's playmakers on the outside, I don't think have been as great as what they were advertised to be. But you're also dealing with a very young quarterback who, for the most part, he's just going to one read and that's it. Like, once the read's over, he's going to take off and run. And so this is going to be a game where Texas, they may have 1 or 2 spies in this football game. Don't be surprised if they do play a lot of man coverage, and if they don't, they're primarily going to be in zone and just pretty much kind of play the flats a little bit harder, so that just in case if Hawkins wants to escape on the outside, there's going to be a defender that can meet him right across their face. So honestly, like I said, I mean, if Oklahoma unleashes and they show Texas different looks that they just haven't seen before on tape, that could be something that could be towards their advantage. But one thing I just don't think is going to happen. I don't think Oklahoma, just by running the football, I don't think they're going to be successful against the Texas defense. You got to have slow, methodical drives. You got to figure out a way how to contain the turn of the clock and give your defense some breathing room. Because I do think that Texas's offense going against this defense, especially if you're going against the Quinn Ewers, who has been gone for 3 weeks because of injury. I think that Texas is going to start off a little slow. I think Oklahoma's defense is going to be extremely intense, and they're going to want to win this game, especially because of the rivalry. But this is just one of those football games, man, where you simply just can't rely on your defense to win. This offense has got to do their part. And Steve Latrell has got to give these players, you got to give these players the best chance and best opportunity to succeed. Because if you don't, and if you just simply want to just run a simplified version of this offense and you're not getting any push and no drive, you're going to lose the game, because Texas just doesn't have a great offense. They have a great defense.
Yeah, Texas is complete. Their interior defensive linemen rebounded better than I even thought they would, and I didn't think they'd be bad. But they definitely rebounded better than I thought they would. They did great work in terms of identifying a need in the edge position, getting Trey Moore, getting Colin Simmons, both of those guys, very, very talented. But the beautiful thing about this game, gentlemen, is that all logic goes out the window. None of it makes sense. And I am just very excited to be able to watch this game. Absolutely cannot wait for Saturday to get here. Gentlemen, we've been on an hour and a half. You know what time it is, where we go around the table and let everybody know where they can find all of your great stuff and what you have planned. Connor, we'll start with you and what you have planned. The live show strikes again.
Sorry about that. This is live show number 1 for me, so I can get a little bit of a hall pass for that, hopefully. But yeah, so as I talked a little bit about kind of at the open of the show, I'm somebody that has always had a passion for college sports, but has also kind of had a passion and an interest in data and analytics. So professionally, I'm an accountant. I am the type of person who, as a hobby, loves being in spreadsheets, and so I'm trying to kind of marry that interest in college football with a passion and a skill set for statistics, analysis, numbers. So effectively what I'm trying to do is create a predictive or explanatory college football regression model, very similar to what PFF or The Athletic or a few of the other kind of major college football sources have out there. And then kind of be able to take fans and other kind of college football nerds such as myself that love stats, love data, under the hood a little bit to talk a little bit about the mechanics of how my model works. You know, what are some of the more important factors that drive winning versus what are some of those factors that we talk about a lot that we all think is really important, but maybe the data or the metrics show not as important as we might think. So that's still very much in the works. It's a lot of work and a lot of a lift to kind of create a model like this, but that's what I've sort of been dedicating most of my spare time and free time to. So I'm hoping that in the future, you'll be able to find me and my data model out there somewhere in the college football sphere. But for now, I'm hoping that you'll be able to find me right here on Ty's channel a little bit, hoping to join in fairly regularly and learn from all of you and get a little bit more practice in this college football analysis sphere. So a little bit about me.
Love it, man. And thank you for joining us this evening. It was
Happy to
awesome
be here.
having
This
you.
is super fun, super fun.
I tried to tell him on the phone, Jance and Coach Sean, that there's nothing to be nervous about. We like what we do on the phone is literally what we just turn on a camera and start talking, and people just come in and contribute. Got a great audience, got a great community, and even the bots came out tonight. That's how you know it was a good one. Even the bots came out. Coach Sean, I kept seeing you look sideways at the chat whenever they would come in, but I'm telling you what, you see how quick I am with them?
I don't even know what the hell that was. I just seen a whole bunch of them, so I was like, "What is that?" I don't know.
I'm over here like Bruce Lee at getting these
Yeah,
bots out of here.
quick on your feet, man. Quick on your feet, brother. Shout out to Connor, man. Data analysis at its best. I love that, man. That's good stuff. I'll be tapped in with you, Connor, whenever you're here. If I'm not here, I'll definitely be here if you're here. Shout out to all the homies on the panel. These guys are awesome. Shout out to my girl, Janet. Shout out to Janet. Janet, you know I got you in the prayers always, girl. Quasia, Anitra, Nicole, all the girls, everybody who support the channel, man. Thank you guys. You can definitely find me at before I forget, man, I was about to mess it all up, bro. I made a bet. This is gonna hurt my gums to do this. Like my gums are gonna be inflamed for the rest of the night doing this. I made a bet with my partner that if them cowgirls beat my Steelers, I was gonna say, how about them cowgirl? How about them cowboys? You know what I'm saying? That just make my tooth hurt. Like I can feel it hurting right now. You know what I mean? God, man, that was terrible. But shout out on a positive note, big shout out to Alabama A&M University, whose homecoming is this week, and I'll be taking part in all the tailgate festivities. Me and my bros will be out there, nice and deep and eating, and some adult beverages will take place. You know what I mean? So we're gonna be doing big things. If you out there at Alabama A&M tent, make sure you come by the Masonic tent, Lincoln 99, Madison, Alabama. Come by there. Come to the Bruh's tent. We're gonna be doing it big. You know what I mean? So you can definitely find me at JMHO Sports Talk here on YouTube and Twitter. Shout out to the brother Goof too as well, my partner.
I want to go, Coach Sean. I mean, I can't.
Man,
I'm not able to go,
bro,
but I'd love to go.
I wish you were here, brother. We get you nice and full on some ribs and some adult beverages and some nice bands and some nice chunky peaches that will be out there. All types of wonderful things, bro.
Listen, look at here. Look at here.
What is that?
Oh, did I miss it? Oh, right when I was telling y'all my speed, I messed up. It's performance anxiety. I don't know what to tell you. Jance, talk to me, man. Where can they find you?
You find me at Jant Sports on YouTube. Eventually I gotta do my Bills joint. I just haven't had the energy to do it. But yeah, you can find me at Jant Sports on YouTube, Jant716 on Twitter, Jant716 on TikTok as well. And I haven't watched anything related to Bama or anything. Like I haven't watched any college football related stuff or NFL. Like I can't. I gotta take a break. At least until we get to like I said, I'll be on these shows, but besides that, I can't do it, man. Sports just take it can be a blessing and a curse, man. It can be a blessing and a curse, especially when we're invested into watching people, man, that they get paid for doing this, right? We sometimes, man, we stay up all night and just be in misery. But no, for the most part, man, it's great being back here, man. Connor, man, nice to meet you, man. I can't wait to see a lot more of your content, especially when it comes to data analytics. I'm extremely into data, so I can't wait to continue to see that. But man, yeah, shout out to the entire chat, especially to a lot of the Bama family. that's in chat. Shout out to Truth, part of the Texas community. Even shout out to you, Darius, who for the most part you continue to hate, continue to be obsessed with the University of Alabama, man. We appreciate you, man, because for the most part, man, you're gaining this influence. But not Darius, you're cool here, man. Like I what I'm saying, like you're always kind of cool here, man. We just, what I'm saying, we expect the trolling that you do on a daily basis, man. But just remember, man, you lost to a team that lost to Vanderbilt. That's who you lost to. And every single game, that Alabama wins for now on, all the trolls, and that includes Tennessee fans. And I'm not letting you off the hook because Tennessee fans kept talking all that crap even after when we lost to Vanderbilt. And then look what happened. They lost to Arkansas. So every team that we beat for now on, you will be in the same breath as Vanderbilt. So y'all want to make it about Vanderbilt? We'll make it about Vanderbilt.
Yeah, sadly. But, guys, I dropped the ball, and I want to very much apologize to Nichols. Nichols, you hit us with this $1.99 donation earlier, and we were in the middle of a thought process, and I didn't get around to it. So I am very, very sorry for that. Thank you so much for the donation, and I do want to be sure to answer your question. Once again, that's 100% on me. Got caught trying to ban these bots out here like Ty Leroy Jenkins and doing my thing.
Go ahead and answer it, Ty. We got time.
Yeah, Nichols with the $1.99 saying, you think Womack getting roasted and will change? I think he is getting roasted, right? Like, there's no way that DeBoer is not walking in and just staring at him being like, we put up 35 points in 17 minutes. The hell did you do? There's no way he's not. And will it change? Jance, you made a great point earlier about, and Coach Sean, you said this as well. We're going into week 6. At a certain level, you are who you are, right? Now, I do wonder how much change can be made in terms of adjusting your defensive front, going with more beef on the defensive line. I don't know that that's like a wholesale change to the philosophy, but at a certain point, like, you are who you are. And so we've definitely got to see something happen against South Carolina, because South Carolina's got a really good running back. They have a quarterback who is proved to be a pain in your side if you don't play him right. And they've got a great defensive line. Like, their edge rushers are really good. This is not a team you overlook in South Carolina. There's no doubt about it that Womack is getting roasted. I hope some things change, Nichols, like in-game adjustments. That has to change. That has to get better. But at a certain level, you are who you are. And so we'll see. I'm not saying it won't get better, because maybe it was just a complete lack of preparation and lack of execution. And maybe those things get corrected and Bama's defense looks better. Completely possible. And I'm not shying away from that possibility. But it is going to be fascinating to see. Gentlemen, I want to go around the table and let each of you try and answer this question. Whoever wants first dibs, go ahead.
Well, I guess maybe I can take the low-hanging fruit as the least familiar with Alabama football. But yeah, I mean, I can't imagine a scenario where he's not getting a little bit of heat under his seat. The defense was poor. There's really no two ways around that. Vanderbilt was able to run all over your defense. So that is obviously not an acceptable answer when you're Alabama football playing against Vanderbilt. So I would imagine that yeah, he is getting a lot of pressure to improve that defense. Obviously, the talent is there on the roster, but I do think there are questions about the schematic fit for a lot of it. So, I think that it probably won't be an easy fix. But I also think, as a lot of you have mentioned on the podcast, on the live, this is a team that did beat Georgia a week ago. So I do think that this is still a very, very good football team, and we need to not lose sight of that. That's not to say there aren't issues to be fixed, though, and clearly the defense needs to be better. And I think it probably will.
Love it.
I just.
Person. Oh, go ahead, Jay. You go ahead,
Okay.
Jay.
No. I mean, for the most part, I would just say this: it's impossible. Like, he's not going to rewrite the scheme. For the most part, now, of course, he can change the personnel. He can change the personnel that that plays within these sort of formations. There is some identity that he can change there. But for the most part, like if people just think that he's gonna get rid of this 4-2-5 or this 3-3, like he's just not gonna do it. Like he's gonna need, even if he does, like it's impossible. Like it took him an entire offseason in order to include like every single wrinkle, to evaluate the personnel and to see who fits who. And you had spring camp, you had training camp to go through your evaluations. Like it took him a bunch of months. And I'll just say this right here. I don't think, again, I'm going to continue to say this. I don't think these players, especially in the defensive line, fits this defense. You're talking about a lot of these players that were literally in a 3-4 defense with Saban, or that was in that pattern match. And now all of a sudden they have to transition and run a defense which requires a lot more speed and a lot more agility on the defensive line. Like I don't think that these players fit it. And I think the one thing that we have to knock Kane Womack is that you have to I think that he's misused the usage of personnel. But like I continue to say, that even that when Kane Womack did put some of these, when they were certain formations, when these players were put in right situations, they weren't playing assignment-based football. So, we'll kind of see what happens here, man. But it's been 6 weeks, and the same mistakes continue to linger. Like last year, when this defense was making mistakes, it was because these players were in the right position. It's because these players, I felt last year these players were put in the right positions, but they was just flawed mistakes. Like Caleb Downs, perfect example, biting down when Quinn Ewers was throwing it deep to Xavier Worthy. If Caleb Downs bit down, that's a lot of inexperience. For the most part, I thought personnel was a little bit of an issue, because really the X factor was Tim Keenan, and then pushing out Jaheim Otis to playing a little bit more 3. That made wonders. And so, last year, a lot of these players, they were recruited to play in that defense, but for the most part, there wasn't a lot of there wasn't a lot of stuff that you had to do in order for you to turn around that defense. I think there's a lot of stuff you have to do in order for you to get to have a great defense. And listen, Bama played great in the first half against Georgia, but ever since that first half, what happened? 70 points were scored in your head since the second half. So I think that there's a coaching issue. I think that there's a major personnel. There's a major use of personnel issue. And quite frankly, I'm going to continue to say this. I think that there is a little bit of a cultural problem. When you watch that destroying video and you watch how, for the most part, Jalen Merrill's talking about how players are turning up music and player meetings and just how relaxed and the podcast, which is kind of going on there, and the amount of in the video games, these players talked about the difference and saying that there's and openly admitted that there's stuff that Nick Saban simply would not tolerate compared to what Kalen DeBoer can tolerate. And listen, we understand that. Like Kalen DeBoer as a Nick Saban, they're two different coaches. We understand that from that perspective. But these players, one thing I can tell you about these players, they were under Saban. And the formula how to succeed, to how to be successful. And if you quickly kind of forget the teachings that Nick Saban is giving you, knowing that you have a new coach, that's not on that's not on Kalen DeBoer and his coaching staff. That's on you, the players, because the standard. You know exactly what you're getting. You know exactly what you're getting yourselves into week by week by week. You know how to win. You know how to be successful. And if you're kind of going back to how you were when you're first coming into this thing without having any sort of identity from a cultural standpoint, I can't blame that on the coaches. That's on you, the players. So we'll see how this thing kind of rolls out. Again, Kent Womack, I understand he's taking a lot of the blame, and rightfully so. I think 50% is on the blame, but 50% is on the players. It is entirely on the players. And we'll see if that can change.
Coach Sean, take us home.
I mean, I'll address this really quickly, because it's just what Coach Jay said. I mean, it's no one person you blame when you play bad like that. When you play bad like that, bro, it's part on the players and definitely part on the coaches. If if you're being honest, the defense it's like they've been on a wave. They'll look good, then they'll look bad. They'll look good, then they'll look bad. So, you know, is it scheme? Is it players? Is it coaches? I blame all their asses, all of them. I don't care about none of that. You shouldn't ever lose to Vanderbilt. I don't care what none of you talking about. You should not be getting your butt kicked like that against Vanderbilt. Period. Period, bro. Like there's nothing you could tell me. I get it though. I get it. That type of style, that option, that attack in the middle, that split zone blocking concept, it's very difficult to replicate in practice. It's very difficult to prepare for. Get it. Totally understand it. Going forward, I think they'll rebound. I don't think we see another team that run the option like that, right? And I hear you, Eric D. I hear you 1,000%, bro. I'm with you. Um, this game should tell the story. To me, the South Carolina game is very important because it's how you rebound. I want to know, how do you rebound? Do you rebound, come out, put some belts to some B2A, or do you come out and look lethargic and can't get off the field on third down? You know, we'll see. This game is exceptionally important. The game after the loss is always very, very important, right? So let's see what happens with that. As far as Malachi goes, man, I see it totally different than everybody, of course, right? I mean, man, listen, we all played this game, bro. I know fans that knock TVs down, that break remote controls, that curse their own family out, that teabag and put their genitals in each other's faces.
Oh God.
Like, I know fans that go stupid ballistic, and you don't even play. So this kid is a team captain. He's never been in any trouble before in 5 years. Never, not one thing. So I'm not gonna rake him over the coals for one horrible incident. The kid he only came back to school because he won the championship. He won the championship, and you just led a team that got their asses whipped by Vanderbilt, a team you hadn't lost since 1984. So I get it. You pissed, I get it. And sometimes, me just speaking for myself, the quiet leader ain't the one that everybody follow in the locker room. The one that act like that is the one to get your attention. It's the reason why it was players afraid of Rolando McClain. Not saying this with Malachi. They rather go to coach than go to booth because they didn't want to piss him off, right? Sometimes those little incidents, as bad as they look, will make the team. Now, I'm sure that the team is going to talk to him, and I'm sure Malachi, being the leader he is going to address it, right? You can't act like that on national TV, but I'm not going to be the one to excoriate him after your team just put up the performance, even yourself included. I'm not going to be the one to bad talk the kid because, of the simple fact that this kid has not had a history of getting in trouble. This kid has not ever done anything of this nature before. You just lost to Vanderbilt on national TV. So I get it, man. And that's just my humble opinion. I argue back and forth on Twitter with some people. Your leader this, your leader that. The same people talking about your leader broke your TV last week. And you don't even play for Bama. The very thing you're mad at him for, you done in your own household, and you don't even play football. So I'm not going to score. Football is very, very emotional. You got to try not to be. It's okay to play with emotion. You got to try not to be emotional, but it happens every once in a while, bro. This is a good kid. This is not a kid to stay in trouble. This is not a kid to cause the coaches any problem. Pull him to the side. Calm down, bro. You can't be that way. Apologize to your team and move forward. You ain't got to worry about Malachi doing that kind of thing, man. And that's just what I believe.
I 100% agree. 100%. He's been a good player. He's been a good leader. He had a bad moment.
Yeah.
I think if we all had if we all had cameras in our living room, we'd all have a lot of bad moments, right? His just happened in front of a lot of people.
Me personally,
he came out, he owned it. Go ahead, Jens.
No, I said me personally, Ty. I listen. I'm gonna be the odd man out. I like it. I just wish he would just did that during the game. Where was the fire? Where was the passion throughout 4 quarters? I hate the fact that he did it. I mean, the only thing I hate was that he did it at that moment. I wish he would have done it earlier. Establish something, get these players fired up. Because these players were getting thrown around, tossed around, driven back 5-10 yards down the field. The quarterback's taunting them in the face. Where was that passion then? That's my
I'm not gonna
only
lie.
issue.
If an offensive lineman would have started fighting the Vandy DB that knocked Kobe out and then stood over him, I'd have been good with it.
Exactly. Like, I mean, your player just got knocked out, and no one's, everyone just standing around, just
Vandy players celebrating
Are you
over
kidding me?
him.
Facts.
Yeah, that.
And everybody just steals facts. I will be quiet on that because that's how I feel too.
Yeah.
That's how I feel too.
We'll go
These
down the
people-
rabbit hole there.
Yeah, man. I mean, football is a game to where you mentally try to punk the other team out with stuff like that. I know it don't look good on TV. I get it, and I'm sure they talk to him. But when you play like these guys played, you got to have somebody to do something, man. I'm not justifying it, but ask yourself, what has Malachi ever done in 5 years to warrant being raked over the coals like that? This kid has been the ultimate citizen. He had a bad moment. That's all it was, man. I'll move on.
No, I think you articulated that incredibly well, Coach. And like I said, if we all had cameras in our living room, they'd catch a lot of bad moments.
Facts.
We just look at this. Look at this. I'm telling y'all, man, I'm expeditious with it. There's the word of the day, expeditiously. I expeditiously ban these bots.
It's not as bad as it was, let's say, like 3-4 years ago. That was
You remember that, Jance? Whenever
Yeah.
you and I would be on here, and it was like hell with these bots. You're 100% right. Stink ass cat with the $20 donation saying, watched your video this morning on the big screen, Ty, and saw the Hail Mary book. I watched him, Drew Hill, and Too Tall Jones play basketball at a charity event in the late 70s, early 80s. Yeah, man, this is the Drew Pearson story. Got it, but it's also autographed by Drew Pearson. So I have that on my little frame deal.
Let me say
right
this,
there.
Ty.
Yes, sir.
My partner, K-Man 404, Bama K-Man 404, he was like, this would never happen under Saban. I want
We
you to
had
go
players fighting under Saban.
check it out. I want you to go Google Mekhi Brown. That's all I want you to do.
Coach
And
Reuben Foster, Ronnie
yeah.
Harrison.
Yeah. Go Google Mekhi Brown. He finna whoop the coach's ass, Saban's ass, a couple players ass. Go and the person and the player on the field's ass. Got throughout the game. Go Google Mekhi Brown, bruh.
Ronnie Harrison and Reuben Foster were on the sideline, and Coach Saban went to step in, and then he realized I can't do anything about this.
Yes, he had. He was ready to knock. I forgot which cut. I forgot who coach was. He was ready to knock him out, and that was during the championship game.
Correct.
That's in the national championship.
AJ McCarron in the center.
Yeah, Barrett Jones.
Yep.
When Barrett Jones shoved him when we were up by 28 points, like it's like, dude. This is what I'm saying, man. Like it can't just be all on the coach. Like the coaches can't get all the credit, and they can't get all the blame. Like this,
Fair.
like a lot of it is on the players. Like it is in-house, man. Like you either have dogs or you don't have dogs. Like I'm telling you, man, one of my favorite plays, and this is not Alabama related, this is Georgia related, was when the Kobe Dean had to make up. I forgot who linebacker, but he had to make up for somebody else's missed assignment, and he stopped Cameron Latu for scoring a touchdown. They would have scored that touchdown. Who knows what would have happened? The momentum would have who knows? Maybe could have won the game. But what happens as soon as he broke up the pass, he went right into somebody's face and he slapped him. He slapped the helmet, slapped him in his face. Cause he's like, dude, why do I have to why do I have to cover for your bullshit? And he slapped him. I wish we had more players like that. I wish we had more. We had more stories of fights going on. I don't want to see these destroying videos and busting with the boys and everyone's just all lackadaisical. Everybody wearing expensive jewelry, walking around the Millmore facility. Everyone's all happy and lackadaisical. Players busting out. Ty, I can't tell you how much that pissed me off when I heard Jalen Murrow sit up here and say that as soon as Kalen DeBoer comes in, I mean, for the most part, like the music is bumping. The music's bumping throughout the player meetings. But when Saban wasn't there, yeah, like that joint would come off immediately. So
yeah, I don't mind it in practice, but during meetings, that's
you know what that is, Ty? That's the substitute teacher coming in class. And we're just being and kids is going to be rude and disrespectful because they know that if that was their real home teacher, it wouldn't be tolerated. But because of the substitute teacher, You got to take. You have to. These kids say that, oh, substitute teacher, we can take advantage of this and not pay attention during class. We can do lots of daisicals, be on our phones, do whatever we want to do. I'm telling you, man, it's a cultural issue. I'm telling you, man, we have a cultural issue, and the leaders are not being leaders. And for us to criticize, for Malachi Moore of doing that at the end of the game, I'm not going to do that, because I wish more of our leaders would step up and do and take a place like that. Because right now we are these these are kids that are taking advantage of the substitute teacher.
It's a fact. And to piggyback on Jay,
weekend. Go ahead, Coach.
To piggyback on Jay, shout out to my brother Brad Jefferson in Tuscaloosa who put that on Twitter. It was Malachi, the one who was reprimanding or fussing at or pulling to the side Ryan and E-Man for doing that TikTok video the night before the game. It was them. It was him, Malachi. Yep. So be careful before you excoriate Malachi, man.
Gentlemen, as we're getting out of here, I wanted to thank Stink Ass Cat for that $20 spot. That means the world. Stink Ass. Moon Rocket says, guess we need to recruit some goons. You think back to some of those old defenses, and yeah. And a little funny meme for us to end. Hold on.
There it is.
I'm telling you, man, I could teach a thesis class on how to ban these bots expeditiously. The word of the day. Little meme as we end. Apparently 180 miles per hour is trending on Twitter right now. First off, prayers if you're in the Florida region. Be safe. Yeah. That hurricane is looking real nasty, but someone quote tweeted it, right? Because it's the original tweet says, update, Milton is now one of the strongest hurricanes ever recorded with a maximum sustained winds of 180 miles per hour. Somebody quote tweeted it and said, I saw 180 miles per hour trending and thought another Georgia player got booked again.
Good God, man.
Listen, everybody's been laughing at our pain. Allow us that one laugh, right? Thank you all. It's time to hear, though, from the fifth member of the panel. And that's the spinning wheel of doom. Shout out Loopy, shout out LaQuacia, shout out Janet, Goof, Eric D, Rhyming, Katrina, Anitra. Thank you all for being in here. It was an awesome show. And as always, two most important things in life is health and time. And you're spending your time here with us. And I cannot tell you how much I appreciate that. You all have allowed me to try and pursue what was my dream. And that really, I will never be able to repay any of you in chat, any of you on this panel, Connor, Coach Jay, Coach Sean. I'll never be able to repay and really let y'all know how much y'all being here and supporting and being a part of all of these, how much that means to me. But it is a lot. Shout out everybody in the chat. And now it's time for the spinning wheel of doom to say their piece. And it's